G'day, welcome back to the channel and welcome to this edition of MGUY EV News for Wednesday the 5th of June 2024. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button and enable all notifications so you never miss another video. So first story up today is the Cybersuck's steer-by-wire system, which seems to have a bit of a lag in it. Now if you were trying to design something that would oscillate, like get into an oscillation, then the best thing you can do is to put a delay in it, because once you've got a delay in a system, like a feedback system, you end up getting into that situation where the inputs are exactly out of phase with the response, and that just amplifies the error until you get this wild oscillation. And this story here highlights that. There's a couple of interesting points. We'll come on to that in a minute. Watch the Tesla Cybersuck's laggy steer-by-wire system work. An eighth of a second is an eternity for a part of a vehicle that requires instant reactions. Injuring people, bricking after going through a car wash, multiple off-road embarrassments, the Cybersuck has had a rough first year, and that's the understatement of the day. And here we are again showing you another example of why the Cybersuck is potentially dangerous to drive. And then there's this tweet. The Cybersuck has a fly-by-wire steering wheel and it lags. Let's just play that. That's just the same thing that's been done before. Now, you'll note that there is this comment that's been added for context. And what they're saying here is that, yes, it has to be done like that because normally there's a lot more lock-to-lock distance than on that tiny little steering wheel. I'm not entirely sure that's quite correct, because the paper that they refer to in there, if you go into that link, obviously it's a journal article, but it talks about variable steering ratio characteristics rather than response time. This paper is very technical. I'm not going to go into it, but I think these two things are slightly different. Variable steering ratio does make sense, of course, and that's something that you can quite easily tweak and adjust in a fly-by-wire system. But when you've got a lag between input and output, that's a recipe for unintended oscillations. If in an emergency situation you have to rapidly turn a steering wheel, then at least the wheels will follow your input exactly when it's a mechanical system. Now, if this is not the case with Tesla, then that's a problem. I'm not sure this variable steering ratio paper actually quite comes to its rescue. But let's go back and read the rest of the article. In a thread on Hacker News discussing another Cybersuck steering lag video on X from earlier this year, a user asked if this could be an issue. The video is 20 seconds long. It runs at low speed to better illustrate the lag. The user observed and calculated based off the video that lag seen was 125 milliseconds. That's slow. For context, if I was online gaming in a match, that's match-ending lag. Interesting story. Maybe we'll get to the bottom of that one day. So Greece is a nation of islands and needs a lot of ferries to get around places. And the ferry companies are a bit nervous about taking EVs with full batteries because of the risk of fire. And as you can see here, Greek ferries no longer transport fully charged electric cars. Charging limits now apply to the batteries of electric cars and plug-in hybrids on Greek ferries. In other words, most ferries no longer take fully charged electric vehicles. It's a bit of a problem, isn't it, if you turn up to a ferry and your battery is at 50%. I mean, I guess you could turn the windscreen wipers and the lights on for a bit and that would drain it pretty quickly. According to the German automobile club ADAC, a new regulation issued by the Greek Ministry of Shipping and Island Policy in force since mid-April is already being implemented by major Greek shipping companies. For safety reasons, the batteries of electric cars may only have a maximum charge level of 40%. The focus here is on batteries of purely electric vehicles as well as plug-in hybrids. This kind of makes sense because the amount of energy in a battery is determined by its state of charge. If a battery is pretty much discharged, the damage that can be done if it gets punctured or whatever is much less than if the battery is fully charged. It's in a very highly energetic state and damage will cause a much greater release of energy. So I guess it makes sense, but how would you get around in Greece now with an EV? You might recall a while ago I did that story about how people were wearing t-shirts with road signs on and confusing Waymo taxis. There's a guy with a stop sign on his t-shirt, and the Waymo just stops next to him, which is hilarious. But there are other ways apparently that you can fool these cars, and this article talks about how it could potentially be weaponized against other vehicles on the road. Researchers warn robot cars can be crashed with tinfoil and paint daubed on cardboard. Use Baidu's platform to show how the fusion of LiDAR, radar and cameras can be fooled by stuff from your kid's craft box. A team of researchers from prominent universities including SUNY Buffalo, Iowa State, UNC Charlotte and Purdue were able to turn an autonomous vehicle AV operated on the open-sourced Apollo driving platform from Chinese web giant Baidu into a deadly weapon by tricking its multi-sensor fusion system, and suggests the attack could be applied to other self-driving cars. Extensive experiments based on a real-world AV testbed show that the proposed attack can continuously hide a target vehicle from the perception systems of a victim AV using only two small adversarial objects, explained the researchers, whose work was published last week in the 30th Annual International Conference on Mobile Computing and Networking. While others have proven vulnerabilities inherent in AV systems, this particular team expanded on single sensing modality or camera LiDAR manipulation and tricked systems that employ LiDAR, camera and radar together. The new attack leverages millimeter wave reflection, the signals that provide object detection in such systems, on a smooth metal surface. They do this in a way researchers refer to as low cost and easily fabricated, as it involves strategically arranging metal foil and coloured patches on cardboard. By placing a smooth metal surface between the radar and a target vehicle with a specific orientation, the transmitted millimeter wave signals can be deflected from the radar receiver, leading to a reduction in the energy of echo signals from the vehicle, wrote the study authors. When the energy becomes lower than a threshold, the target vehicle will be hidden from radar perception. Yep, just one more problem with autonomous vehicles at this point in time. Steer well clear of them, literally. And those of you who saw my video yesterday about misinformation might enjoy this one, as you watch the Lefty heads explode on the project. When somebody dares to question whether EVs are actually as good as they're cracked up to be, misinformation. The project host Kate Langbrook's wild EV stance. Wild means it doesn't go along with the government narrative. After reports that EV sales are down on last year, Kate Langbrook made some wild remarks to her baffled co-stars. Let's watch it.
Have one is because of information. Like, I don't want to have to go on holidays and wait 4 hours for a charging station. I don't want to have to plug something in. I don't have a garage. I don't have off-street parking. So how am I going to charge my car?
But I think that this is a beat-up, isn't it? Like, if they're up on the year, all you're doing is comparing last April to this year, April and going they're down 5%. At a time of a cost of living crisis.
Well, why did we run the story?
Well, I don't know.
No. I think you get the early adopters with any new technology, right? Everyone rushes towards it. Like, it's like when the iPhone came out, you know? We didn't want to part with our Nokia 3210s.
Sorry, it's Simon from the future here, just doing the edit and listening to that comment about the Nokia phones that we were so keen to hang on to. No, we weren't. We could see that iPhones were a much better product. They did more things. It didn't need government subsidies to make us buy iPhones. They were just better. Simple as that. Back to the video.
That's how my dad was with a CD player. And you know what? Turned out he was right.
I mean, that last comment about CDs was a bit tongue-in-cheek. But just look at Waleed Aly's face, as if anyone could possibly question the merits of EVs. And he said, oh, we're in a cost of living crisis. Are we? Okay, wow. Thanks for admitting that, at least. I mean, he's a typical lefty hack, lives in the lefty bubble. And, you know, when somebody actually comes on and tells him some home truths, it's... Look at Ali with his confused expression. Huh? What? Idiot. So I'm not going to go through this article in detail, but I'll leave a link to it in the description. You can read it for yourself. It summarises basically all the problems and struggles that self-driving tech companies are facing at the moment. Robotaxis are rolling along an uncertain road. After a decade plus of development, driverless vehicles to carry passengers are commercially deployed in more locations and in greater numbers than ever. Yeah, they're doing live beta testing on public roads. But some of the companies behind them are encountering fresh financial and technical challenges, all while coming under greater scrutiny from federal safety regulators and ordinary citizens. Leading companies find themselves making tangible progress while sitting in ever more precarious positions. With that in mind, here's a look at the latest developments from robo-taxi providers and others hoping to join them soon. Then the article goes through Waymo, Cruise, Tesla, Zoox, Wave, Volkswagen, Mobileye, Motional, May Mobility, Baidu. Okay, and you can go and read that for yourself if you really want to torture yourself. And finally, here's GM CEO talking the talk about EVs and how it's all going to be massive transition to electric cars at the same time as they're massively backpedaling in order to keep their petrol cars in production. GM CEO says commitment to all-electric fleet remains firm despite industry-wide sales slowdown. In an interview with NBC News, Mary Barra laid out why the company has no plans to change its roadmap. But she does reveal something very interesting. General Motors CEO Mary Barra said the storied automaker's plan to turn its fleet 100% electric will now play out over decades. Well, that's interesting because I thought we were supposed to be all electric by 2035 or something. That's only one decade, singular, and she's talking about decades, plural. No, it's just reality check. In an exclusive interview with NBC News, Barra clarified the company's previously stated intention to eventually phase out gas-powered cars. I wouldn't say we're recommitting, Barra said of the company's pledge, first announced more than 6 years ago. You know, we said back in 2018 that we're committed to an all-electric future. But as we make this transformation, it's going to happen over decades. And that's why I couldn't be more proud of our gas-powered fleet as well. This transition, if it ever happens, will be much, much slower than governments want it to happen or believe it can happen. And during that time, gas-powered cars will continue to play a very, very important role in the energy mix of our private car fleet. That's the reality. It's just that governments and motor manufacturers are just about catching up to the reality, finally. That's just about it for this one. Thanks very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. See you in the next one. Bye for now.